sanctions are clearly on the table. It's hard to say what kind of preparation went into this summit between the two sides. There was clearly a lack of coordination, considering they came away with no deal. But it seems that the U.S. perhaps thought that there could be something else on offer. North Korea has firmly come to the table, put its foot down, and said, we're not going to make any kind of decisions until sanctions are lifted. Whether or not they wanted the entirety of the international sanctions lifted or just a partial lifting of the sanctions, it's a matter of he said, she said at this point. We have the U.S. saying one thing, and we have North Korea saying another thing. But I think the process just got much more difficult. Deal-making in whatever form is not going to be easy now, especially considering that sanctions seem to be the only thing North Korea is interested in, despite many analyst suggestion and other speculation in the media that they could offer the Kaesong Industrial Complex, this joint North-South Korean economic initiative, maybe some tourist incentives, a peace treaty to end the war. None of that seems to really matter to North Korea. They want sanctions relief. The U.S. has never wanted to give it. So we're at, once again, a serious impasse.
So what about Moon Jae-in's role here, the president of South Korea? Apparently there was 15 minutes of phone calls between Donald Trump and Moon Jae-in and Shinzo Abe. So 7.5 minutes each Donald Trump could have spoken to those leaders. 7 minutes isn't much to update on what happened in Hanoi.
It's not much at all, and probably little comfort to the South Korean president, considering how much he has staked on this process. But apparently he and Donald Trump discussing their hopes for the future and fresh talks. Trump walked away saying that this process will continue. But like I said, with sanctions being what North Korea is eyeing the most, it's going to be very difficult. This has not been an easy time for South Korean President Moon. Today is March 1st. Massive celebrations across the country marking independence movements against Japanese colonial occupation 100 years ago today. That's something North and South Korea celebrate together. Moon had big plans for a speech that he recently delivered involving his expectations for economic cooperation with North Korea. Whether he watered that down after learning that there was failure in Hanoi is unclear. But he did say that, he hopes these initiatives, economic initiatives can take place once there is progress on denuclearization. So it's a major blow to South Korean President Moon Jae-in. I think he had high hopes for what could come because there had been so much buildup to this summit from not only the U.S., but also South Korea as well. Politicians across the aisle came together here to support this, and then we have a no deal in Hanoi and a very firm position from North Korea. It's not going to be easy to move forward from here.
Bruce, thanks very much indeed. Bruce Harrison in Seoul, so to Washington, and Harry Horton. Harry, a few hours after that statement from the North Korean foreign minister, we got a State Department rebuttal. Anything new in that?
We've had some information from the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, as well. He's just been asked about this in the past few hours. He said, in his view, that North Korea basically asked for a full lift of sanctions. So the US pushing back on this narrative from North Korea. They still see it, that the North Koreans were asking for all sanctions to be removed. I should say Mike Pompeo also said that the US was anxious to get back to the negotiating table. So the US trying to put a positive spin on this to try and say that, look, they're still in favour of having further talks with North Korea. We've heard President Trump over the past few weeks lower expectations, saying that he's in no rush, saying that so long as there's no testing, I'm happy for these talks to continue at a slow pace. That seems to be the line of the United States now. And certainly there's been some positive reaction in Washington towards President Trump for walking away from that deal that he says he walked away from. He's received praise from both Republicans and Democrats, but there's a lot of things to worry about as well. We haven't got any closer to the two countries coming up with a shared understanding of what the term denuclearization means. There's no clear roadmap or timeline for how denuclearization might occur. And despite the US saying it's anxious for these talks to start again, there's no date for a third summit. There's no date for subsequent talks between lower-level US and North Korean delegations. So lots of anxiety about how exactly these talks move forward.